Hey there, everybody. Andy from Legendary Tales here, and welcome to Tales of Legend, a TTRPG for your worlds, your heroes, and your stories. This video is meant to be an introduction to the channel, as well as an explanation to just what Tales of Legend is. By the end of this video, you'll know what makes Tales of Legend unique compared to other TTRPG systems, if that system is right for you and your style of games, and you'll learn a little bit about me and my logic behind the design of the system. Thanks for joining in. Now let's begin. I want to start this video by front-loading the most important information. Tales of Legend is a fantasy tabletop RPG, just like D&D, Pathfinder, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Castles and Crusades, etc. Basically, if you roleplay swords and magic, roll dice, and have turn-based combat with a group of friends, you're playing a fantasy TTRPG. Before I go any further, I just want to let you all know that the website and Discord information is below in the doobly-doo. If you want to check out a free sample of some of the rules, as well as some character builds, check out the download page on the website, and if you like what you see, join our Discord and let me know. Now then, Tales of Legend has been in the works for over 2 years, well before any controversies with D&D and the development of many other new systems that are in the works right now. It just so happens that we are in the mix right along all of this, so while many in our hobby are considering what they would like with their game system, we're going to throw our hat in the ring as well. Tales of Legend is similar to many of these other games in many ways. You roleplay, explore, and fight monsters. You roll a d20 and add modifiers to determine if you succeed or fail at certain tasks. And you go through your stories, you gain levels, and your character becomes more powerful. So what makes Tales of Legend different? First, and the most important, Tales of Legend has absolutely no lore and is incredibly light on description and illustration. This is by design. Tales of Legend is designed as the mechanical backbone of your game. So, if you are a game master that takes a lot of pride in designing your own unique fantasy world, or if you are a player who has vivid and unique concepts for a character, this system gets out of your way, providing the rules you need, rather than telling you what or how to flavor your creations. As a result, the player rules for Tales of Legend fits in about 30 pages, making it very easy to reference and memorize compared to other systems. The next unique feature of Tales of Legend is how it streamlines many of the complexities that can get in the way of newer players to TTRPGs. We will go into more detail later and in future videos, but things like the number of ability scores, modifiers, and dice are much more intuitive and accessible. There is no converting a larger ability score number into a smaller modifier. You don't have to memorize a ton of different types of dice, and the action economy is laid out for you in the character sheet. Finally, and the most important aspect for me, Tales of Legend is not a rules-light system. As a GM and player, I love depth in character creation and combat. Although Tales of Legend is designed to be more accessible, easy to reference, and easy to memorize, players who want to engage with the deeper mechanics of builds, combat tactics, and magic have plenty to experiment with. If anything, streamlining the game makes room for your brain to think about how you want to engage with these rules. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, thanks for sticking around this far. Now let's get into some of the details. Most of my experience in tabletop role-playing games comes from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I would describe myself as mostly mechanics-driven. I love experimenting with different classes, subclasses, spells, and features to make unique interactions. Despite this, I've actually been a dungeon master way more than I've been a player, and this made me realize something about myself. I rarely cared about anything in the books beyond the mechanics. I can't tell you much about the lore of 5th edition. I always prefer creating my own fantasy worlds and using the mechanics of the system to play the game. This was because I found it much easier to keep ideas in my head that I came up with rather than having to read from lore that someone else wrote for me. Not only was it easier, but more engaging to interact with my own worlds. So I realized I don't need half of the information found in these books. And I got really tired of flipping through pages and pages of flavor text to find obscure rules. So Tales of Legends gets out of the way for me. Out of a 60-page book, 30 of them are dedicated to monsters and other things that the Game Master would need to know. Meaning as a player, I can reference a condensed 30 pages whenever I make any character or look up a rule during combat. It isn't a novel, it's an instruction manual. So if you are like me and are ready to boil your RPG system down to only what you need, Tales of Legend might be right for you. So then, if we want to get rid of as many fantasy assumptions as possible, allowing for ultimate creative freedom, what about classes? The more I played, the more I realized that classes actually inhibit player creativity. Of course, it is really nice to have tropes and archetypes to lean on, especially for newer players. But what if I wanted to play a scythe-wielding demon hunter that had the ability to use the blood of the creatures they hunt to magically enchant their weapon? You would have to bend over backwards in order to make that work in most RPG systems. Either that or use a ton of homebrew, but not in Tales of Legend. What we have is a classless system. We assume absolutely nothing about your character. Instead, as you level up, you are able to assign points into your different aspect scores. Every time you add a point to a score, you get to pick a mechanical bonus from a list. Each aspect score has a different list. For example, if you put a point into physicality, you might then pick the martial fighter bonus, allowing you to fight better with melee weapons. So, if you are someone who likes the idea of creating your character a la carte, rather than being tied to a particular class fantasy, you might be interested in Tales of Legend. When it comes to streamlining compared to other tabletop systems, Tales of Legend does a few things. For example, we have 4 aspect scores, whereas many systems use 6 ability scores. Physicality deals with might and toughness, and is like combining strength and constitution in other games. Grace is very similar to dexterity in other games and deals with speed, reflexes, and accuracy. Focus is our singular mental statistic and deals with magic. Notice I don't tell you where your magic comes from or how you access it. That's between you and the world you inhabit. Finally, skill allows a character to be good at a variety of things, mostly outside of combat. Skills are not tied to the other scores by design. When you see a wilderness expert find food or a modern sniper hide, this has nothing to do with how wise or how fast they are. These are particular skills that these experts in their fields have practiced. Each of the 4 aspect scores start at 0. There are no negative numbers to worry about. As you level up, you get aspect points. A single aspect point increases an aspect by 1. This eliminates the crazy conversion that exists in many other TTRPGs. If you have 3 physicality, it will give you a +3 on physicality rolls. It's that simple. Another issue that I have seen with many new players is dice paralysis. Many new players, even after playing for a couple of months, struggle with the distinction between a D8 and a D10, or a D12 and a D20. And which dice is used for what again? So in Tales of Legend, we actually streamlined the number of different dice that we use. We still use a D20 for the base of all chance rolls, but when it comes to damage, we only use D4s and D6s, which are the 2 most easily distinguished types of dice. Instead of a D8, we use 2D4. Instead of a D10, we use a D4 and a D6 combined. And instead of a D12, we use 2D6. And the best part about it is that if you don't like that, you can switch. You can easily use that D12 instead. But I find that for newer players in particular, it helps with that dice paralysis. Tales of Legend players generally only have to keep track of 5 dice throughout most of their journey. 1d20, 2d4s, and 2d6s. This actually speeds up gameplay a lot too. The last feature I want to talk about today is the aptitude die. If you have aptitude in something, you are better at that thing than others. You might have aptitude with focus rolls, ranged weapons, or a particular tool. This is your thing. And the way we distinguish that is with the aptitude die. Whenever you roll with aptitude, you roll the aptitude die with your d20 and add them together. So, going back to our previous example, if I have 3 physicality and try a feat of strength, I will roll a d20 and add 3 to the roll for my physicality score. If I also have aptitude for physicality, I will add a roll of my aptitude die as well. Your aptitude die scales with you as you level up. It begins as a d4, and then it scales to a d6, 2d4, 1d6 plus 1d4, and finally 2d6 at higher levels. Your aptitude die is more important for other mechanics as well. If you have some sort of advantage for a roll you make with aptitude, you add the maximum of your aptitude die instead of rolling the die. Let's say you're trying to move a boulder off a comrade. D20 plus physicality plus aptitude, right? Oh wait, that's not just a comrade, but your lover? Okay, since you are extra motivated, you get to maximize your aptitude die instead. So instead of rolling 1d4, you just add 4. The same is true for a disadvantage. Maybe you are poisoned, or sleep deprived, or intimidated. In these cases, you make your rolls without adding your aptitude die. And since your aptitude die is physically there, ready to be used, it is a physical reminder that something is wrong with you when you are not allowed to use it. Alright everyone, those are all of the basics that I wanted to talk about for our first video. Thanks for sticking around. If you came this far, you must be at least curious about Tales of Legend. If so, please consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the link below to go to the website and take a look at the free rule sample. And if you want to learn more or chat with me directly, consider joining our Discord server. I'd love to talk more and maybe organize a one-shot with you. In our next video, we are going to discuss how to navigate the book and make a hero character. I hope to see you there. Have a wonderful day, everybody.